This is a sort of review of the 30D. I picked one up for £70 the other day and I thought I'd share with you what I think about the 30D. I took it to a wedding and was very impressed. The first thing that's very good about the 30D is it uses the same battery as the 5D. So that's the first thing I like about it. The second thing that's very good about the 30D is the fact that the layout is exactly the same as the 5D. So let's just get to the menu. So the menu system is exactly the same as the 5D Mark I. There'll be a few changes, you know, a few differences. The top layout's the same, the button layout's the same. And this was the sort of 2005-2006 camera. So I think the 5D Mark I was 2005 and this was 2006. It's when I first started doing wedding photography, you know, professionally really. And well, this is what we used and this is what I use now. The top plate is slightly different because you've got some picture modes. So this was really a semi-professional camera. It's got 8.2 megapixels, which is, by today's standards, you're going to think that's just ridiculously low. But to give you an idea of the 8.2, the 8.3 resolution, a lot of fuss at the moment about 4K, which is great. You walk into Sony shops anywhere and it is an amazing image. The way to think about the 4K is an 8.3 sort of sensor is 4K. So you can actually do 4K time-lapse with this camera. So you just need to plug in your interval timer and you can do 4K raw files. So you're just collecting all your raw files and then you put them into Lightroom and you can do 4K time-lapse. So there's a lot more to this resolution really. It's been forgotten. The 12.8 of the 5D Mark I, let's just get the 5D out. So we all know what I think about the 5D, so I won't go on about that. It's still the #1 camera for me. But the 8.2 resolution is quite interesting because what they did at that point in 2006 is the megapixel race really started, and the 40D was about 10 megapixels and then the 50D ramped it up 15 megapixels. So they started to push on selling cameras by, well, how many pixels? And this, at the time, we all thought that this was a great thing, but unfortunately we had problems with noise, and the 40D at 1600 ISO I wasn't that impressed with it. I used it for about 2 years as a second body on the 70-200 f4, and the noise, I was happy at 800, but to be honest it became a bit useless in the ceremony. It was a bit too noisy. So the 30D on the 8.2 I thought was quite interesting. So I went out the other day and I thought I'll buy this 30D and we'll put it up against the 5D. So that's a £70 camera, £77. And if you went out today you could get a 5D Mark I for £299. You can get a 1DS Mark II at this stage for about £399. So this is all very, very good equipment that's been forgotten about. So I was using the 5D and I decided to put the 70-200 on this one. And I also used it with the STM lens, so it's the 50mm 1.8 STM, which is a very good lens. And I have to say, there's not a problem with noise with this camera. At 8.2 or 8.3 or whatever resolution, around 8, we'll call it 8. Call this 13, call this 8, it's a lot easier. So if you go from 8 up to 13, you know, people would then say, wow, that's a much bigger file. It's a massive file. It's a big jump. Well, actually it's not. If you're printing out in albums and you're using an 8 megapixel file, you'd be amazed the print you can get out of it. In my hallway, I used a 350. There's an image in my hallway as we walk in, and when I'm teaching at my house, people walk in, the first question I ask them when they talk about equipment is, what do you think I used for that? And they know I've been doing this a long time, and they know I'm into 5Ds, and they'll either say you did it with a 5D, or they'll say maybe you had a 1DS Mark II because of that era, and I'll say it's a Canon 350D with a 50mm 1.8. So you can get a 350D for, I think I saw one the other day for 50 quid or 35, I think £35 for a Canon 350D. And you can get a second-hand lens for, get the 50mm Mark II for about 60 or 70 pounds. So for around about 100 quid, you're a stock photographer. I literally got an image that is in the hallway that's sold throughout the world for £100 setup. So I'm not trying to stop people buying the new high megapixel cameras. I'm hoping straight after this video to do a video about the Nikon 850, and this will be news to everyone, but I think the Nikon 850, shifting away from Canon, is probably the best camera they've made since this one. So the Canon 5D Mark IV, unfortunately, does not really give, for the same money, and we're talking £3,500. I know we're taking big jumps from £70 to £3,500, but for £3,500 or that area, we expect something special. And the Nikon 850 gives you everything you need as a wedding photographer. So straight after this, hopefully I'll do one just about the Nikon 850. But we're at the other end of things at the moment. So what do I love about this camera? Well, it's a mini 5D. You've basically got exactly the same layout. You can put exactly the same flash guns on it. It's a crop sensor, so it means you can put your 70 to 200 on it, and it becomes a bit 300mm at the other end equivalent. So all that means is you've got a little bit extra reach, and you've got that 8.2 megapixel sensor. So it's a very, very good camera. The noise, 1600 ISO, through Lightroom now, the files, and this is a big thing I'll talk about in another video, but what you've got to remember is these files are now going through software in 2017, and this is what you should be trying, putting these old files, these old CR2s, putting them through 2017 software, and that is where I'm seeing the biggest improvement. I saw it a few years ago, to be honest, and this is why I haven't kept changing the cameras, because the files from the older cameras through the new software, noise reduction, you know, everything, it is very impressive. So that's a big tip. In my opinion, that's probably the perfect starter camera. 30D with the 50mm STM lens. So you've got the newer lens, the optically the same, but the autofocus has been improved in this lens, and it matches up well with the 30D. That goes on your shoulder. You've got a brilliant portrait setup for £100. I know somebody that is now working in London, didn't just start off with this setup, they literally carried on with this setup, and they've just got such talent, they don't need to keep adding the cameras. So I hope that helps. I know it's not very good at being what we meant it to be. Was it meant to be a 30D review? My reviews, I know, are a bit sketchy, but the bottom line is, I'm just saying to you, 5D Mark I, highly recommend it. 30D, same layout, great backup body for the 5D Mark I, great camera on its own, add any of the Canon lenses. So yeah, I can highly recommend it. I've got another wedding on Saturday, so that's why I do these videos, is because I've got this bit of spare time just to charge all the batteries. Another big thing, same battery on each camera. So I'll probably do another one on the 30D. We'll give it more of a run this weekend, and I'll come back with some images. You notice I never show the images. If you do want to see any of the images from this camera, go to www.richardbarley.co.uk. So that's my wedding site. The training website, which I'll just plug that, go to richardbarleyphotography.com. richardbarleyphotography.com. There you go, there's the plug. Go to that one, because what I'm looking for is your input, because I'm going to do a YouTube page on the site which is just about this era. It's 2006. It's a very important era for Canon. Some argue they've completely lost their way now. I hate to say it, but I agree. They have lost their way, and the problem is video is why they lost their way a little bit. Nikon are now, to be honest with you, this 850 have really shook everything up, because they've produced the perfect camera. If you don't think it's the perfect camera, I guarantee in 3 years' time we're going to be saying that's the perfect camera. People argue the Sony coming through, the A9, that's not the perfect camera. I'm going to have to get hold of some of these newer cameras and tell you why. If you're working with a Sony and you're reversing backwards down an aisle with a bride and groom running at you, and you're looking through a viewfinder at a screen in the viewfinder, I challenge you all to go and have a go at that. It's very hard. That's all I can say. It's your awareness of your surroundings while you're looking at a screen, rather than optically being in touch with your subject through mirrors, which is SLRs. I'm not completely convinced. I did the XT1 for one season, and then had to get rid of it. It was one of the reasons I got rid of it. So optically, we're looking through mirrors, and you feel like you're actually there. This is something I'm looking at the moment with the whole mirrorless system. Is can we actually professionally, is it going to be really taken on? I mean, half the people that I see using the Sonys at the moment are looking at the screen at the back. It's a big thing. So go down your camera shop and try using these cameras. Just because everybody's saying mirrorless is the way to go, don't ignore the older cameras, the optical systems. You know, we'll see. We'll see what happens in 5 years. The death of SLRs is apparently coming. I don't see it myself. I think you'll find the professionals will keep using these. Okay, it's a bit of a rant about the 30D, about the 5D, but I hope that helps you. Let's do another one about the Nikon. I'll try and do one now. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching.